Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? And welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Preview. I'm Jeff Hartman, senior editor behind thesteelcurtain.com. And joining me as always, the other two dudes on this show. Let's go with Bryan Anthony Davis, podcast producer. What's up, Bryan? How are you?
Hey, I am doing great. We're getting close to Thanksgiving. We're a week away from Turkey Day, which always one of my favorite days of the year until NBC ruined it and put dog shows on there. And now my mom's like, ooh, I want to watch the dog show. We're like, no, we want to watch the Detroit Lions. I'm like, okay, you've got a point. But there you go.
What is the Thanksgiving slate this year? Do we know? I mean, I know we know, but I just don't know it off the top of my head. Does anyone know what the games are?
I haven't looked past week 11.
I know, that's the thing.
I do know this. Detroit and Dallas are playing. I do know that.
No, there you go. That's breaking news. Dave's got it.
Bears, Lions, Raiders, Cowboys, and then the night game is Bills, Saints.
Ooh,
I can't believe they're putting this.
I think you could pick every single one of those games.
I can't believe they're putting that many AFC teams in the Thanksgiving Day line. Normally, it's like just an NFC fest, and I could care less. But
there's always one AFC team, so that way it's on CBS.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay, Dave Schofield.
We have had so much.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry if I was lagging behind. We've had so much Detroit, Chicago over the last few years.
Yeah.
So, Dave, welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going. It's nice to be here with you two blokes.
Oh boy, don't talk about those guys from down under. All right, yeah. We have a lot of news to talk about on this Steelers preview. We're going to talk about the Steelers West Coast woes. Bryan dug up some really good, interesting statistics on that. We'll get to that. Before let's talk about the news. Just so in case the moment this is being recorded, Ben Roethlisberger, Minka Fitzpatrick are still on the reserve/COVID-19 list. That can change at any time, especially for Roethlisberger. But as of right now, they're still there. So in other words, if you're sitting there thinking, oh, I wonder if he's going to be back, not yet. Injury report, though. Pretty significant injury report, in my opinion, on Thursday. Dave, do you have that handy?
I have the injury report extremely handy.
All right. Why don't you go ahead and
I assume you're talking about the Steelers because there was a little something interesting with the Chargers today too. I don't know if you caught that or not, but
talking about one Mr. Herbert.
Even though he was a full participant, he wasn't on there on Wednesday and then showed up on Thursday.
Keenan Allen was on there as well, although he was there on Wednesday.
He was also there on Wednesday. Yeah. So,
but I saw Herbert. I mentioned that in the podcast.
I was going to check that out after tonight's show. So if you haven't checked it out yet, make sure you go check out our Jeff's Injury Report podcast on anywhere you can find podcasts. Just look for search for Steelers or BTSC, and you will find us. Let's get back to the Steelers. Chase Claypool limited again. That's not bad, but it's not as great as it could be, right?
I think Friday to me is the indicator for him.
Yes. You would like to go once you start limited. You would like to see to go full from limited, but I'm like, they could limit him 2 days and then see if he can go full on Friday. So that if he'd have been full today, I'd have been like, it's no problem. Chase Claypool's playing, but he's limited right now. So now it's like, well, we'll see. Okay, Joe Hayden, that's another one. Didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. Now, if there's anybody on this list, because we'll go ahead and throw him in with TJ Watt. TJ Watt did not practice on Wednesday and Thursday. If there's anybody on these lists that could not practice for 2 days and actually then come to practice on Friday and not even have an injury status, it would be Joe Hayden and TJ Watt from the defensive side of the ball. Yeah. Now, are we expecting that? No. Are we hoping for that as Steelers fans? Absolutely. But right now, we really have no idea. So with that, it's if you listen to Keith Butler's comments today, did it seem like he was more talking about maybe no TJ and no Minka? Did you really feel that same way with Joe Hayden?
I didn't get to hear his comments.
I didn't get to hear his
comments yet.
Yeah, but I know that they were specifically saying, "Oh, he's not talking like having Minka and TJ." But Joe Hayden was not included in that discussion from everything that I saw. So Joe Hayden, being the veteran that he is, he's the one that I would say is most likely that could go 2 days without practicing and show up on Friday and be fine. We just don't know. But I will tell you one thing that was very nice after not practicing Wednesday with the ankle injury, full participant, Trey Turner, at least get back one of the 2 guards. That would be really nice. So he's trending. I mean, you don't expect that jump from not practicing to a full. You don't expect that. So the fact that he made that jump, I think, is very encouraging. But Kevin Dotson did not practice. I know Matty P brought it up on our Slack channel. He's like, "Oh, I want to see Dotson tomorrow." I'm like, I'm just surprised if the Steelers didn't have 2 guys on the COVID list right now and have 2 open roster spots. I don't even know that Dotson would still be not placed on injured reserve. I mean, a high ankle sprain for a guard, I expect him to miss multiple games. So who knows? Maybe it wasn't what they thought, and he could come back. You're the injury guy. You're the health nut. You would have a little bit more idea with that, wouldn't you, Jeff?
With high ankle sprains?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be stunned. Absolutely stunned if he even practices this week. If he were limited on Friday, I would be like, wow, that must be a very mild sprain. Yeah. High ankle sprains, gosh, I mean, we all know what I think of when I think of a high ankle sprain. Former Mr. 97, defensive rookie of the year, Kendrell Bell. Like, high ankle sprains ruined his career. Yeah. But I think of, it takes time, and it can be a week, it can be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but it's rarely ever I'm not missing any time. When you're carted out of the stadium, like he was on a cart going back to the back, and I'm thinking the worst when I see that. I'm thinking, shoot, he could have torn ACL.
Broken. I thought it was a broken ankle.
That too.
Because he was ruled out so fast. So fast he was ruled out. I couldn't get over it.
So, but yeah, and the crazy thing is, like, TJ Watt. I mean, let's talk about this while we have a moment. I'll throw it over to Bryan first. I mean, so you think about Minkah Fitzpatrick, and let's just assume that they're not playing. Let's assume Minka's not going to magically come back, nor is Roethlisberger, and nor is TJ Watt. Let's just throw him out there too. I mean, my gosh, I feel more comfortable in the depth they have in the secondary than I do at outside linebacker. I mean, you think Trey Norwood, you think Carl Joseph, you think Miles Killebrew, Edmonds would have to step up his game. Clearly, that's going to stress a lot of fans out, but still, that's something. I mean, my gosh, outside linebacker. Would they go into a game with Taco Charlton and Derek Tuska, however you say his name? That's it in Highsmith. Bryan, what do you think about the replacements if it comes down to that?
Yeah, the depth is a problem, and one of the reasons that it's a problem is you made a trade that they felt they had to make because you were going to have problems, and you didn't want to go down that road where you've gone down that road before with LeGarrette Blount, with James Harrison just a couple of years ago. So they really didn't want to do that. But yeah, they're not looking amazing as far as the depth goes, and you might be seeing. And my gosh, I'm just going to try to call him JTM because I think that's I have such a hard time with a kid from that just came in from the Atlanta Falcons. So I'm not even going to try.
Just call him Mariner. That's what I call him. Just Mariner.
Which ironically, I got to point this out on Steelers.com. He's number 49. They have him listed as an offensive lineman.
Nice.
Seriously.
Nice.
I just
so they don't even know who he is.
Yeah. But yeah.
It was funny. I was at the game the other day. They introduced the defense and they came out, and it's kind of like you're watching, you're like, wow, the Steelers are really getting hit hard on defense. And now it's going to be even more. And of course, there's a lot being said about the defensive backfield as well, but I agree with you. Right now they are even still with the possibility of losing Hayden for a second week, and with Minkah out, I still have a little more faith in the depth there. I have a little more faith, and we're not really worried about the defensive line, but I have more faith in the depth up front too. It's in the middle with a problem. You're a heartbeat away from starting Taco and Tuska. So it's like Taco Tuesday, but Taco Tuska on Sunday. So yeah, I'm kind of a little worried about that whole thing.
Dave, what do you think about the replacements?
Yeah, it maybe in my top 10 sports movies. Oh, you mean the replacements for the Steelers defense?
Great. Yeah. I was going to do that too.
10. There's no way that's a top 10.
No, it's. I had to throw out a number off the top.
Not
of my
even
head.
top 50.
Yeah,
I love that. Oh gosh, man, I love that.
Did you say that? The stupid quote from Keanu Reeves again. No. Gosh, shoot me now.
I saw that movie one time a long time ago.
Love scars, scars heal. I'm a douche. Something like that. I think that's how it goes.
Oh man, wounds heal, chicks dig scars, glory lasts forever.
I like my ending better.
All right.
Getting back to the linebacker. That's awesome.
All right. What I think of the Steelers reserve players at those positions is, it doesn't matter what we think of those players at those positions. I could have gone more into a rock answer there, but they're just going to have to play who they have. I mean, that's where you are at this point of the season, and you hope that guys get back healthy. And it's not that those guys can't get the job done. It's, do you have confidence in them to play at a high level on every play? Because when you're on defense, you could play. I mean, how many times have we seen this from the Steelers? I'm thinking of even like 2018 Steelers. For some reason, it's sticking out in my mind. They would go in, they'd have a game, they'd like come. Maybe it was even 2019 2019 against the Eagles, when they completely shut down the run, except for a 74-yard touchdown. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. All it takes is one play, and everything that you've done so well for so long is just all gone. And that's the thing that you don't know that you have beyond these players is, can you make sure that they don't have that one play where they really cost you? And that's what it's the wild card. It's the unknown.
Well, in one position, I wanted to bring this up because it was news that happened today on Thursday, is if there's a position of need also in terms of depth, there might be help on the way. And that was in the form of Carlos Davis being taken off the injured reserve. He's not been reinstated to the 53-man roster yet, but they started his quote-unquote clock. He has 21 days now to be activated, or he stays on IR for the rest of the year. He also, his brother is on the practice squad, Khalil Mack. Is that right? Did I say his name
Not
right?
Mack. It's Davis.
Khalil Mack is a hell of a player. Can we get him? Can we get him?
Hey, it's all right, Jeff. I said that Eagles game was in 2019. It was in 2020. We're all getting mixed up here tonight.
My gosh. I've done a lot of
Thank you, Brian Brown. You're correct. It was 2020.
Yeah. I've got two sons on that team. Yeah. Show some respect.
Yeah. Yes. No, I thought you were only Carlos's dad.
Well, they're twins, aren't they?
No, but that's what you. Well, I guess he was only your son. He was the only one that was your son because he was on the Steelers. I guess now that they're both on the Steelers, they can both be your son now. So
I could rewrite my my personality info here, my profile.
Yeah.
Gosh, can we get Khalil Mack though? I mean, let's get back to the Steelers.
Yeah.
No, but so Carlos Davis and his brother Khalil Davis. What are the odds that these guys can actually? Well, first, my question is, I'll throw it to Dave first here. Would they be an upgrade at the players they have as depth now? We're talking Henry Mondeau, Isaiah Buggs, Isaiah Loudermilk, who, as you mentioned, was put on the injury report today. Do you think there's an upgrade there in the future?
Yeah, we actually didn't even get to that part of the injury report that it was Loudermilk. Hey, the Steelers can't go a week without having someone with a groin issue on there. So it was his turn to take the groin injury. But as expected, Cam Hayward was back, so that finished out the Steelers. But since we were talking about the defensive line anyway, my thing is, I don't know that that's an upgrade because, I mean, Carlos Davis hasn't played since week 1. He hasn't played since week 1. And the Steelers, if you look at Zach Banner, if you look at Anthony McFarland, just because you start their window doesn't mean that you're ready to activate them right away.
Right.
So the only reason I would think he might be activated right away is if the Steelers have the empty roster spots, if either Ben Roethlisberger or Minkah Fitzpatrick, who I do want to talk about that with some COVID stuff at some point here, that if they have that open, then they could go ahead and boost him. But is he going to take, whose spot's he going to take? Are they going to, because early in the season, was it week 1? I think it was Loudermilk that was 1 or 2. It was Loudermilk that was inactive.
And
then he's the one, playing almost all the snaps in the fourth quarter and overtime, it seemed like. So when someone comes back from an injury, I mean, right now we're all suffering from Devin Bush syndrome. They come back from an injury and you're like, are they even really the same player right now? So that's what I don't know.
Is there a cure for that syndrome?
I wish. So
Brian, I'll ask you the same question. Your Suns upgrade over what they have now?
You know what? No, not yet. Possibly in the future. I really like.
Gotta love it.
Yeah, I really like Isaiah Loudermilk.
Yeah,
and I see Mondo having some flashes. I think that's probably. I know they got pushed around last week with the running game. I get it, and I want to go back to what Dave said about that one big play and. I think the Eagles game of 2009 or 1979 that he was talking. Oh no, sorry, 2020. But I want to talk about that. So you had that 74-yard run. Wasn't the big touchdown from Igwebuike, or I can't pronounce his name. So number 35, wasn't that a 42-yarder?
42-yarder.
So there you go again. That's you take that away and maybe if you stop that, and if you actually know how to tackle somebody at that point, you're not looking at them getting into the end zone, and you're keeping them to 3. So there's so many things to look at, but I think I don't think their depth there at that position, and that actually that whole stable there up front is as big as a problem as the linebackers. But those guys could. I mean, I would love to see the Davis boys come in. That's what everybody says all the time throughout history. Love to see the Davis boys. And but
that's not true.
Okay.
Yeah,
you just made the list.
Been on the list for years, man.
I really think that Wormley is doing well. I think Cam elevates, but has Bugs been terrible? Has Mondo been dreadful? I don't think so. No, I mean, this just adds to it. This adds to your arsenal up front, and it makes that stable stronger. Of course, somebody's going to be taken out of there too. So if you think one of the weaknesses is a guy like Mondo, I mean, somebody's going to be replaced. So we'll just see.
Well, Brian, when you asked the question, is Bugs been bad? Was whoever else has been bad? It depends on the podcaster you're listening to on our platform, because several would say, yes, they're awful. This team stinks. They're going to go and lose every other game. So, I mean, it depends on how you view their overall performance. It's been inconsistent, I would say.
Yes.
But Dave, let's also talk about you wanted to bring up COVID stuff. I hate talking about it, but we will, because it's necessary and it's pertinent to the Steelers and also the Chargers, and the fact that Joey Bosa and Tillery are on their reserve COVID list. From what I heard, I don't know if this was from their coach, who I actually think is a really good coach, by the way. Staley, is that his last name?
Brandon Staley, yes.
Brandon Staley. Going on a fourth down in really bad spots, but okay.
Other than that, he's a good listen, like his interviews. He reminds me of like a young Tomlin. Anyways, he said that Bosa was a close contact. You want to talk about COVID stuff? By all means,
yeah. Well, first of all, I have to correct Brian. I mean, come on, it's touchdown zone. Get it right. And the only reason I didn't include that 42-yard run as one of those is because the Lions had been running the ball very well for the plays leading up to it. In that Eagles game, the reason I use that as example is they were getting lost, maybe a yard, lost, boom, 74 yards. You know what I'm saying? That's just why I use it as an example as I did. But you're exactly right. Back to the COVID stuff. My thing is what's frustrating is I don't know if it's just a difference in the coaches, or I don't know if it's a difference because the Steelers have to travel. But here you have Ben Roethlisberger. Now, he had symptoms, so that makes him a whole different case. But here you have Minkah Fitzpatrick going on the COVID list on Monday, and the Steelers are talking like he's not going to be available. You have two guys from the Chargers going on the COVID list on Tuesday, and their coach is talking like, oh, they're playing. And that's the thing that I don't – is it the way the coaches are coming or are going with this philosophy, or is it because it's a Sunday night game and those guys can come off at 5:00 in the afternoon on Sunday and still be able to play? But yet, if that happens for the Steelers, they can't. Or I was just wondering why it seems like it's so different when the Chargers guys are a day behind this Minkah Fitzpatrick.
They didn't test positive.
That's why. Are you sure? Well, are you sure?
According to their coach, coach said Joey Bosa was a close contact. That's it.
But was Joey Bosa his close contact Tillery? Because then the other thing is that another player, I can't remember who it is, another defensive lineman went on the COVID list the next day. They have 3 people on the COVID list. So I can't remember the name there. I'd have to go and look it up. But that's just another thing that I just find that's a little bit frustrating, that here they are, they're moving. Like the Steelers, like, well, we're going as if we don't have Minkah. So is it the Steelers or the Steelers sandbagging? Are the Chargers looking for something that they shouldn't be? Or who's right, who's wrong? Does it have to do with traveling? I'm just frustrated with it because I don't understand it. I don't understand it how Minkah Fitzpatrick, who there are not really any reports, but there's been no reports of him having symptoms or anything, and yet they're talking like he's not going to play. But yet 2 guys the next day end up on the list. And they're talking like they will. I just don't understand.
Bryan, any comments on that?
Gamesmanship's always a part of it. Whatever you can do. I mean, you have more leeway with the COVID list than you do with the actual injury list, because we've seen teams get in trouble for messing around with injury list. But I don't think there's anything clear cut with the COVID list. So I think there could be some sandbagging, could be some gamesmanship. And if you can get away with it and it's not illegal, why not? I would say this though. Could you imagine some of the old time coaches? I mean, like dealing with COVID, like a Chuck Noll or a guy like Bum Phillips or someone like that. I mean, that would blow their minds. And because of my comments last week, a lot of people think that I hate Chuck Noll, and I absolutely, adore his place in Steeler history. But I just did want to bring that up too. But I don't know what they're doing with the. I don't know, and sometimes it's better to be close to the vest, especially with Ben, because we know darn well that if this team is preparing for Mason Rudolph. And Mike Tomlin gave us a little something the other day on Tuesday, which I thought could possibly be gamesmanship as well. We are going to go ahead and prepare for it as it's Mason and play to his strengths. And if for some reason Ben's able to play, well, I mean, it sounds like they feel that Ben could come in and adapt to whatever game plan, and that very well could be. But yeah, I think they're trying to knock these guys off their game a little bit, because now you've got to throw it in their minds that you've got to prepare for 2 guys.
It's going to be interesting. And any time you can use the rules in your favor, I mean, this is what Belichick used to do when everyone on his team was questionable every week. It's like he had 53 players that were questionable. He just never knew. He never knew who was playing and who wasn't. And again, they had to change the rules around it. When I was a coach, I used to read the rule book cover to cover every single year. Why? If you know the rules, and you can use them to your advantage. And so if these guys are looking at the rules and the protocols and they're like, oh, well, shoot, I can do this, that, and the other, not going to get in trouble. Organization's not going to get in trouble, can give us a leg up. They're going to do it. Why? They're competitors. I don't blame them. Don't blame them at all. All right, enough of the COVID talk. Let's get to the crux of this podcast, and that is the Steelers' West Coast woes. The Steelers have not been, the West Coast has not been kind to them. I think, Dave, you said the West Coast has not been the best coast, was your line in your Stat Geek podcast.
Hey, I have to give credit where credit is due. Bad came up with that one.
Okay, very good. Whoever said it was good.
We collaborate.
Yeah.
The West Coast has not been the best coast.
Well, and just to kind of in case people didn't catch Stat Geek, you might want to make sure you check some things. I broke down some numbers with how often ties occur in the NFL. So if you might want some of that, oh man, some of these matchups that the Steelers have, how it's going to be with the Chargers is interesting. But when I talked about and I did just the Pacific time zone. So this wasn't Denver, this wasn't Arizona. That since 2000, the Steelers are 4-10, but all 4 of those wins are against the Chargers. They're 4-1 against the Chargers on the road. So for some reason, they can't do anything in the West unless it's against the Chargers.
That's good. I mean, that's good. Brian, you went a little bit further and didn't just do Pacific time zone. Do you ready for your stats there?
Yeah, I am actually in the process of pulling them up. I will say this. I had an opportunity to see Ben Roethlisberger win with a last-second field goal in that magical 2005 season, and that is a game where he actually got hurt.
He got hurt, yeah, that he got rolled up on.
It was towards the end of the game, and it was. I have so many stories from that game, and that's for another time.
Well, Brian, hold on. Was that the game was that the interception of Drew Brees that James Harrison jumped over LT?
Yep.
Okay.
I have a signed picture of that.
Okay.
I actually have a signed picture of that. That was just, man, that was such a fun game to go to. And like I said, sometimes we'll tell you more from that game because there was some amazing happenings. But yeah, it seems like those are if they do have any luck, it's against the Chargers, but we've seen different quarterbacks. I mean, we've seen Duck, we've seen Vic win out there. So that's one thing to definitely look at as well. But we're going to go back all the way to 2007 because it's Mike Tomlin's first year. And I thought that was probably the best way to go ahead and do this thing. And if we go back to 2007, his first time out west, Arizona Cardinals. They lost 21-14. There's nothing really spectacular that stands out around the circumstances of that game. It was a loss, and I believe they started out 3-0, and that was week 4. Then the next week, not the next week, but also in that same 2007 season, they lost at Denver, 31-28. And this is really interesting. Jason Elam hit a field goal as time expired. Ben was sacked 4 times, including a strip sack for a TD. Replay overturned an interception, an incompletion, allowing Elam to hit that game winner. And the Steelers were actually down by 14 points to tie it. And they came back late in that game, but because of that incompletion that wasn't, it was overturned. That point, they lost that game. In 2011, in 2009, they won at Denver. And that was the game. That was around the time when Ryan Clark wasn't playing for a couple years in a row because of the sickle cell anemia and the elevation there. And I thought Mike Tomlin really did some, great personnel moves there. And then Tyrone Carter had an amazing game in that game for them to win. They won 28-10. So that's a win. In 2011, the Steelers just blew out the Cardinals 32-10. There was a couple bombs to Mike Wallace in that game. But then it got bad at the end of 2011. Do you remember the blackout game on Monday Night Football against the San Francisco 49ers?
Was that 20-3 was the final there?
Actually, it was 20-3, yes.
Ben was coming off an ankle injury. He was really bad.
Yep. And didn't they start it off with the field goal? I can't remember. It's all running together now, but yeah, I remember that weird game.
I remember hoping the blackout just continued, and they said, "Let's go home." Because they really, because that was a good team that year. That was a 12-4 team.
Yeah.
But their troubles out west killed them, especially in the playoffs. They lost 29-23, Denver, and I've got one surname for you, and it's Tebow. Or they were T-bowed. That was the game that we want to forget. I know Ike wants to forget that game.
And that was the first ever NFL game that was where it was a chance for there to be possession by both teams if the first one only kicks a field goal. Because that was just when they implemented that, it was just for the playoffs. They didn't do it for the regular season, and that was the first playoff game to go to overtime. And yeah, it didn't matter.
If you watch the actual game replay of that, you actually see right before that play, they are showing the new rules on the screen. And Jim Nance is recapping. This is what it's like now, and 88 yards or whatever it was.
It doesn't matter.
And it doesn't matter. Let's get this super chat up here on the screen. Steel Dog 88 gives us $5. Says, I agree with Dave and his Stat Geek podcast. Steelers need to pound the rock and not overthink it no matter who is at quarterback for the Steelers. Good. That's a good way to end part one. I want to end it here. I want to pick up with talking about this in part two. So if you're watching live on Facebook or YouTube, don't go anywhere. We're not going anywhere. And if you're listening on the podcast side, head over to part two. We're going to do over-under, talk about this topic and more, give our predictions and trivia. Stay tuned. Be right back. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to the second segment, the second part of the Steelers preview. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Bryan Anthony Davis and Dave Schofield. Dave, since this was your Stat Geek podcast, pounding the rock, that's what you said they need to do. Go ahead and explain yourself a little bit.
It's really simple. When you look at the statistics and the teams and the rankings and who's given up the most rushing yards and passing yards and everything else in the NFL through 10 weeks, the team that is 32nd in rushing defense is the Los Angeles Chargers. So my point was, don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Don't pull what happened last week. Like, oh, it's first and goal from the 5. They're going to expect us to run. We're going to pass. Oh, they're going to expect us to run again. So we're going to pass again. Stop it. Or how many times have the Steelers gone up against a team that's supposed to be bad against the run and they throw the ball 50 times because they're like, oh, well, they're expecting us to run the ball. You know what? Why don't you just take a lesson from what the Lions did for the 3 drives that they scored on you? They just did what works over and over again until it stopped working. So don't be afraid to run the ball. Just pound it.
Bryan, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really think that the offensive line gave them the opportunity to run last week a little more. And you see when Najee is going over 100 yards per game, that is a very big deal for this team. And it just, I mean, it kind of drove me crazy that Mason Rudolph's throwing 50 times, but that was Ben Roethlisberger's game plan, and they did not adjust from it.
Well, I don't know if they could. Like Matt Canada.
No, you can't.
Let's talk about Matt Canada for a little bit. I asked this on to Michael Beck on my Let's Ride. We're about halfway through this thing, a little bit beyond halfway. What's your take on Matt Canada's offense thus far? Dave, I'll ask you first.
For people who think it looks just the same as last year, then either you're not paying attention this year or you weren't paying attention last year, because it does not. There is when it was Randy Fichtner, no joke, I was probably over 90% predicting what the play was that was coming based on who was on the field and how they lined up. Not so anymore. It's not as predictable. Now, it doesn't mean that they're doing what you think would be best to work in a situation. I'm not saying that. But the one thing that I have to say is it is not predictable. They're running the jet motion to at least have the threat of the jet sweep constantly, whether they're using it or not, and they are mixing it up to where it's not, I mean, sometimes you're going to say, oh, that's what they're going to do, and you might get it right, but it's not nearly what it was before. In that respect, I know some people are really down on Canada. I don't know if there would ever be an offensive coordinator that some fans would be happy with, because they're not running the exact play that they want them to run at that time. So my thing is I just like that it doesn't look the same and that I can't say that I know exactly what's coming every time.
Bryan, what are your thoughts on Matt Canada's offense thus far?
I've never seen a tight end run between the tackles before until I saw Ebron do it. I'm talking in Pittsburgh. Yeah. I kind of I agree with Dave because it's not predictable. But one thing that you definitely have to look at here, gentlemen, is this. You still have a 39-year-old Ben Roethlisberger with this team, and you have to mix in what is good for the future and the other guys on this roster and for the quarterback as well. So you cannot if you just go and say, this is my plan and this is what we're doing, then it's going to fall apart completely because you still have to play to your quarterback's strengths. But you have some ability with the run game to mix in this new scheme. So I think that's what they're doing. And I really think that a lot of people are going to have really short memories next year and the year after that, when everybody thinks that this guy's horrible and Matt Canada. Yeah, I think you're going to really see something different, and you're going to be praising this guy. We've seen it so many times. I go back to how many of you refuse to say it, but how many people in 2003 thought that Troy Polamalu was going to be a Hall of Fame player? You were calling him a bust. You're also calling Cam. You would never, like I said, short memory, because it's just going to be like this, where 1 million people said that they went to Woodstock in 1969. Well, it only held 100,000 people, but your memory be short, and you'll be like, oh, I knew he was going to be great all along. And I think that's going to happen with Matt Canada.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's some great points there, Brian, in regards to the fans' short-term memory there. Anyone that's coached anything that is a team sport where you have to like implement an offense, and it could be basketball, it could be like for me lacrosse, it could be football for Dave, anyone. I know I've had these moments where you're trying to do something, you're like, yeah, I don't have the personnel to do that.
Yeah,
have the idea, it would work if you have the personnel. And keep that in mind here. I mean, this isn't his quarterback of choice. I guarantee it. I mean, Ben is a Hall of Fame quarterback. We all know that, but I guarantee you it's not like, hey, if I could handpick a quarterback, it's a 39-year-old Ben Roethlisberger. They can't move, never run RPOs. That's not his system. I'm not giving him a pass. I am for this season, definitely. But we'll see. We shall see. I know, Dave, you know what it's like coaching a sport.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to implement this offense.
Like, I'd love to just pound the rock. Not when your biggest lineman's, 172 pounds and they have no idea who they're supposed to block.
Yeah. That's fun stuff. Now let me ask you about this. The Steelers Chargers, Dave, in your podcast, you brought up a lot of great memories about the Steelers. Brian, you brought up the game in 2005. When you think of Steelers Chargers, what game comes to mind? What moment comes to mind for you? Brian, I'll let you go first on this one.
I'm going to have to go back to another Super Bowl year, and it's not the one that I was talking about. But this is a moment when there was snow all around. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think the game was 11-9 or 11-10. And when the Steelers beat, it was a December game in Heinz Field, and Troy Polamalu picked a ball off of the ground that was just, he, with his fingertips, it looked like it should have been an incompletion, and he picked this ball off of the ground. In fact, this looked less like a completion than the wait, let me put the quotes up. The incompletion in the AFC divisional game against Indianapolis, the first Super Bowl year. This was, but with every replay you saw, you couldn't fight it because he just snatched it off the ground. So when I think of Chargers and Steelers, I think of that game.
That's a great memory. I do remember that one. Dave, what about you? Steelers, Chargers, what comes to mind?
Well, I've blocked those AFC Championship games, or I say games. I don't know I can't remember how many they were.
94.
Yeah, I'm blocking that out of my head. That's.
I had already done that until you just brought it up.
That's dead to me. So and if I want to think back, because that's not who the Steelers are now. And if I want to have a bad memory, it's John Bostic lining up on Keenan Allen. But really, the one that sticks out to me is 5 seconds left in the game on Monday night, down there at the 1 yard line. No, we're not going to overtime with the field goal. We're handing it off to Lev Bell and seeing if he can get into the touchdown zone with no time on the clock, and which he does. That's what I think of when I think of Steelers Chargers.
The Wildcat. They ran your Wildcat there. That Michael Vick was not on the field, I don't believe, for that Le'Veon Bell touchdown. Am I right?
I just remember the run. I don't remember exactly.
I think it was a Wildcat play, believe it or not. I do. Go ahead, Brian.
I just want to say about that game real quick. I don't even know if that was done to protect Boswell, because that was Boswell's first ever game as a Steeler. And I almost feel like, that's a gutsy play, but was there something going on that they're like, yeah, we don't want to just throw this guy out here, the possibility of, being a rookie, being an undrafted free agent, do we want to go ahead and do this to this guy? So I would love to, that'd be one of the questions I'd love to ask.
I don't know that was as much of Boswell to hit that kick. It was, what were they going to have to do in overtime on the road, and how close were they going to have to get for him in his first game to win it in overtime, and thinking, hey, we've got a better chance to win it from the one right here than to have to worry about that in overtime. That's where I think Boswell could have come into play.
Could be both. It could be both. Wasn't it in 2009, Brian and Dave, that didn't Steelers play the Chargers again at home was it the divisional round or was it wild card?
No, that was yes. So no, that was the divisional round because that was the Super Bowl winning year in San Antonio home.
Yes, that's the play I remember. And no one really remembers that punt return for a touchdown. San Antonio Holmes was so good when he was out there as a punt returner. And I can really Antonio Brown was really the only one that was close. I thought Deontay Johnson would be in that role as Santonio was. Santonio did not return every punt. If the punt was going to be returnable, you put Santonio out there trying to make a play. And when he returned that punt, I remember that play. That was a great play. And you guys basically said all the other ones that I was going to say anyway. And Duck Hodges going in 2019 and winning on the road was a big win. And that was when the quote, Dave loves the quote, he didn't kill us.
Yes.
He didn't kill
us.
Yeah,
he didn't kill us. Yep.
All right.
And of course, to me, some people say that was the Duck. To me, that's the Rickroll game. That's the one I'll always know. I will always identify that. I didn't even know
what that was until you said that.
You ridiculous person. Come on. I mean, Brian, Mr. Pop Culture, he knew exactly what was going on there. But even today, Cam Hayward tried to reference that they accidentally played Renegade and didn't know what it was. They knew what it was. They were trying to make a joke out of it. People still don't understand to this day what they were trying to do 2 years ago.
Which makes it that much dumber.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys ready for some over-under?
Yes, I am.
Sure.
All right, let's do it. I'm sticking with this with the quarterbacks here. I'm going with Mason Rudolph just because at this time, this being recorded, that's who this quarterback for the Steelers. Mason Rudolph attempts in this game on Sunday night, 35.5.
Assuming it's Mason Rudolph.
Brian, over/under.
Well, I was just going to say under because I think Ben Roethlisberger's playing. But so let's just assume that they go with number 2 here. And I think it's going to be under. I think they're going to do everything they can to get Najee going.
Okay, Dave, what do you think? Over/under.
Unfortunately, regardless, I'm just going to say quarterback passing attempts. And leave who it is out of it. And I'm unfortunately, I'm going to say over. I'm just afraid that the game situation is going to dictate it to that. So it's just going to make that happen to where they have to be throwing the ball more. But if they are over it and that's dictating it, at least it means they're possessing the ball enough to have that many attempts, if you know what I mean, because I still think they're going to run it a decent bit with Najee.
Well, speaking of Najee Jerome Harris, let's talk about his rushing yards. I have it set at 112.5. Brian, what do you think about Najee Jerome? Do you think he goes over or under?
I think he's going to go over. This is a team that gives up 155.1 yards per game. And what are they ranked? 32nd, Dave?
And 30. Yeah. What did you say is a number that they give up?
155.1 on average.
155.1. That's the number. Yep, dead last.
Okay, so you said over.
Yes.
Dave, you agree? Over 112.5?
I think he's going to go over, but I don't even know that he's going to go over 20 attempts. I think he can go over that yardage with even less attempts.
Okay. I hope it's over. I'm going to go with over. But how about Najee Jerome Harris touchdowns? I've set the line at 1.5. So, Brian, for Najee Jerome, what do you think?
Let's go under. He's going to get 1.
Okay, Dave?
I'll agree with Brian.
I'm going over 2. I think 1 receiving and 1 rushing. Okay, let's go with Steelers sacking Mr. Herbert. We're going to set the line at 3 even. Brian, over under.
They're going to go over.
Okay, Dave?
I'm going to push. I think that's a really good number because it's not that the Steelers don't sack the quarterback. It's that the Chargers don't give up a lot of sacks. They've given up less than the Steelers this year. They've given up 16.
Okay, I'm going to go under with 2 or 2.5. We'll see, but about 2 probably. I should have said the line at 2.5 in hindsight. Anyways, turnovers. Let's go with the Steelers turning the ball over 1.5. Over under, Brian.
It's gotta be under, and I think that's being drilled into their head this week. And I know they're professionals; they should not be having that drilled in their head. But why do I picture a whole bunch of Omar Epps holding onto the ball and people trying to knock it out? And they did that with Hines Ward way back in the day. But yeah, I think it's got to be under.
Dave?
It really needs to be under, and I'm going to say under, but unfortunately, I think it really needs to be 0, and I think it's going to be 1.
I'm going to take under. I'll go with 1 as well. Takeaways. My gosh, the Steelers can't generate takeaways to save their life. I'm going to set the line at 1 even. Brian, over under.
I don't believe in them getting takeaways yet, so I've got to say under.
Dave?
I'm going to say under because it really is a rarity. I mean, they have 8 on the season in 9 games, so they need it. I'm just not sure they're going to get it.
I'm going to have a push here. I'm going to say they get 1. They get 1. And lastly, the Chargers rushing yards, 115. Over under. Brian.
I'm going to have to say over. I really think Eckler is something special, and I watched him in that Cleveland game. I don't. In fact, I think he's more of a runner, and I think this is more of a line than what you had with the Detroit Lions. So I don't know if that is fixed yet. So let's go over.
All right, Dave.
Unfortunately, I'm going to say over as well, which goes against the numbers because the Chargers only average 100 yards a game, 100.2. It's not like they're getting tons of yards either. And I honestly think that Eckler is more of a weapon in the passing game. So actually, I've talked myself out of it. I think I'm going to say under. I think Eckler's really going to get going in the passing game more than even the run game. But it all depends on how the game situation plays out. But even if the Chargers, let's say they have a lead, they still might just be small short dump off passes more than just running the ball.
I'm going to go with over, but not by much. Not by much. Napoleon and Rags gave his $10 tip. He gave us a super sticker. I can't even see what that is.
I can. I got it. I got it on my phone. It is. It looks like is that a hippopotamus in a yellow shirt in a wheelie chair that wipes out and it crashes to the ground and it says wrecked.
Thank you very much, Napoleon and Rags, for the tip and the super sticker. All right.
I'm just trying to paint a picture with words.
You have to do that. Trivia, both Dave, Brian. Do you have trivia?
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I do have trivia, but it's not. It's a kind of easy one because I'm giving you choices. It was something. It's actually Jeremy Betts brought this up to me, and I didn't actually answer him on Twitter. He brought it up as a question. I should have answered it, and it was about. Even Mason Rudolph was, throwing deep on third and short. Depends on what your definition of deep is, because Pro Football Reference didn't have Rudolph throwing quote unquote deep passes on third down. But what I found interesting from the game against Detroit is the Steelers had, let's see, was it 17? They had 17 third down plays. And of those 17 plays, 16 of them were passes. And the other one was not a Najee Harris run. It was a Mason Rudolph run. So Najee Harris did not get a handoff on third down. So it got me thinking of how's Najee doing on third down? And then I started to look at some other Steelers running backs. So this is my question. I was looking at how often, what percentage of touches on third down, the reason I say touches because it's the passing game as well, are the Steelers converting into first downs when Najee Harris touches the ball on third down? Who do you think has the highest percentage of first down completion or first down? I said first down. On third down, who has the highest percentage of first downs accomplished between Najee Harris, Le'Veon Bell, and James Conner. When it comes to third down, who had the highest percentage of converting that into a first down?
I'm going to say James Conner.
Jeff is just staring at the TV. I don't know if Jeff's frozen.
No, I'm not frozen. So. I was answering something in the
when it's on third down, when the running back gets the ball, either on a pass or on a handoff, who do you think had the highest percentage of conversion rate of actually turning it into a first down between Harris, Bell,
Najee Jerome?
The answer is James Conner. James Conner converted, rounded it to the whole percentage of 52%. Najee right now is right at 50%, and Le'Veon Bell was at 48%. But out of those three players, who do you think has the highest conversion rate on receptions and not rushing?
Lev Bell.
I'm waiting for Bryan.
I'll go with that.
It is what Najee Jerome Harris.
Oh, Jerome.
Here's the other thing with Najee right now. He has. You like that we threw that out there, okay? I'm the one who pointed out that it was wrong, but we don't know what it is, so we got to go with it.
It's Mzee. MZE.
Is it? Yeah, we haven't. We cannot confirm or deny.
Jerome is much better.
The middle name of Najee Harris. So we're just going with where Wikipedia screwed it up for the time being. But believe it or not, Najee Harris has caught every target on third down. He does not have a third down pass that has come his way that he has not caught. And he has converted 60%. It's 6 out of 10 is what it is, of third downs that he has turned into first down when given the ball in the passing game. But one last question with the option of the three. Who do you think had the longest average to go of those three, meaning it was third and this distance? Who do you think had the largest distance to overcome on all those plays? Bell, Conner, or
I'm going to say Conner.
Let me go ahead with Bell.
And it would be one Najee Harris. Because it's over 6 yards for him. Conner, it was his, and whenever he would get the ball on third down, it was an average of 5.8 yards to go. Where was Bell's? Bell's was 5.7, and Najee Harris, how about 6.4? And he's doing a decent job of when he's getting the ball on third down of getting that first down. So especially with his usage in the passing game, one of which was a 25-yard touchdown, we have to remember. So just thought I'd put that out there.
All right, Bryan, go ahead.
Okay, so a lot of people recently are not thrilled with me talking about pop culture on these shows because it's going to be all Steelers all the time. But
oh my gosh, see,
I want to bring up.
You're so in your feelings with this stuff, man. Don't let them get to you, man. Just do your thing. One guy's going to make you change your entire lineup. God.
And he just gave us $10. That's awesome. So thank you. But so
that wasn't it.
What I'm going to say here. I think so, yeah. But but things don't stick to me. I forget. I'm like an elephant. But anyways, so with that being said, Jeff's favorite band of all time is a group called, and I bet you didn't know this. It's a group called Captain QB and the Big Boys. Now, Captain QB and the Big Boys came out with a disco hit in 1979. It wasn't a hit, but it became one of the absolute greatest fight songs for a team of all time. And it was for the San Diego Chargers. 10 years later, they moved it to a non-disco version. But when I went in 2005 at that game, my buddy and I, every time they scored, they would play this fight song. And even though we wanted the Steelers to win, we went on the score field goals just to hear this crazy fight song. How did it go, and what was the name of the fight song?
San Diego Superchargers? Was that
That's the name of it. That is the name
San
of it.
Diego Superchargers.
Superchargers. San Diego Superchargers. Chargers, charge. And it was so dumb. It was awesome. And Jeff got that because he loves Captain QB and the Big Boys.
See, then Captain QB wanted to go out on a solo, and he left the big boys at home, and then everything wasn't the same after that.
It's all fun and games till you drop the big boys.
See, and everyone knows that it's really the big boys that matter the most. That the game, it ultimately comes down to the big boys. But they're never the headliner.
No. And I just totally realized we didn't do our predictions yet. So we got to do our predictions of the game. What's the line, Dave?
The line, I really need to double check it. I checked it before the show, but it's changed so much.
Well, it had gone to 8. It started at 6.5 the week, and then I checked for my article that it's running tomorrow, Friday. It had gone to 8 via DraftKings Sportsbook. Is it higher?
It went that far on DraftKings because it started at 3.5. And right now,
your article the day after was 6.5.
No, it was 3.5.
No, was it 3.5? Maybe it's at 5.
3.5.
Maybe it's at 5 now.
It's at 5.5
okay,
now.
5.5. Okay,
5.5.
So
and I knew it was going to move around because of all these possible injuries, and COVID lists and everything else. We don't know who's playing. Anyways, nobody knows who's playing.
What's the over/under?
The over/under is 47.
Money. Okay, Brian, prediction time. What is it?
All right, I'm going to go, if it's 6.5, I'm going to go ahead and say Steelers take the points, but it's going to be 30 to
5.5.
5.5. Did I just listen wrong? Okay. Well,
Seattle has 2 losses.
Tally site told me it was 6.5, and I was thinking how I was going to apologize. Anyways, so with that being said, all right, no, then I guess go ahead, and I'm looking at 30 to 24. Steelers are way too beat up.
Okay. Dave, prediction.
That's fairly close to mine. Now, I'm going to give the same disclaimer that my brother gave on Tuesday, and I said you have every right to, and we told every person who typed their score in at the end of our show, because that's what we do at the end of Skill Bro. We bring up your scores from the live chat. We still don't know who's playing. We still don't know. We still don't know who's playing. So when it comes to the staff article, I have every right to change this pick based on when we find things out. And Brian can't stand not looking at the live chat. But anyway, I'm going with 27 to 23 Chargers. I think the Steelers have the ball. I think that they give them a game. I think that they get it close. But unfortunately, a field goal doesn't do it for them, and that's what has them come up short.
What's your final, Dave?
27 to 23.
Okay, I have shocker. I think the Steelers win this game. They find a way to win, and it's a last-second Christopher Boswell field goal to put them up 23 to 21. I think they surrender 3 touchdowns.
We both say 23.
23 to 21. Steelers win. Take the Steelers, getting the points, put them on the money line, and take the under hard.
Can I ask you guys a quick question?
Sure.
I mean, we're all Steelers fans.
Yes.
That's just what we are. That's just what we are. All right. If the Steelers are going to be down, let's say the Steelers are down Minka, TJ, Hayden, Ben, and Dotson. Let's say they're down all those guys. And maybe even, and I'll even say Claypool plays. Okay. But let's say they're down all those guys. Would you rather go into a game where the Steelers are on the road and underdogs with all those guys missing, or at home and favored to still win by a good bit?
The road.
I mean, on the road, your back's against the wall. You can really drum up it's us against the world type motivation, like underdogs to the max. Like I think that's the setting that you would rather have, but having players is valuable no matter where you are.
That could be a home game though with the crowd. We'll say that.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh yeah, it's true.
Well, like I say, because that's not even that's not even their home team. They're really the San Diego Chargers. They just play their games there because they want other team fans to come watch. So I don't know why.
They don't even own that stadium.
Exactly. It's just
they lease it from the Rams.
Yeah. Anyway,
right.
Go ahead, Brian. Brian didn't answer the question.
Oh, go ahead, Brian.
No, I actually did. I mean,
okay.
throughout road. Yeah, I'd rather be on
same
the road.
Here. And I mean, and I feel exactly the same way. I'm just kind of reminding everyone that, if you're going to be down a bunch of players going into this situation, just go in as the underdog and just, play out, ball out, play hard, Jeff, play hard.
Right.
That's what they need to do. You need to overcome. As a fan, I feel much better going into that situation.
I bet your pregame speeches were legendary when you coached.
Oh, they were. Oh, my not 1 yard speech that I gave. Oh, that was, it was phenomenal.
You say your play hard speech? Is that what it's called?
No, it's called not 1 yard. Yeah, not 1 yard.
Final thoughts, Bryan Anthony Davis. Go ahead.
Real quick, I want to go back to Jeff's prediction. If Chris Boswell does make that field goal, will he forever be known as Christopher Lynn Boswell?
Lynn,
I just found it on Pro Football Reference. No one else wants to give him Lynn. Wikipedia won't give it, but it's Christopher Lynn Boswell, CLB.
Lynn. I don't know. That's not as good as Jerome.
It's truer than Jerome, but that's okay. So, I want to talk about last weekend, but before I do that, you know what? I like to have fun here. I like to joke around, but you know what? If I bring you up and for criticizing me, it's just I'm having fun with you. So make your opinions. I don't care. At least you're not the guy that said I need to throw in a salad and ride a treadmill last week on my show. That kind of, that made me go eat even more and cry to my wife like, I hate these people. But anyways, I get it. I'm here. I have the platform, so I'm going to be up for criticism. So no problem. I do appreciate. I don't care whether you like me or hate me, as long as you're here on our network checking us out. If I'm your least favorite podcaster, at least you have a least favorite and you have favorites, and I love it because these guys are the best. But I want to talk about last week real quick, and you're in a situation where everybody is down on the fact that you're tired of the Lions. And you look around and you see the Bills losing the Jags the week before. And you see what happened to the Ravens. You see what happened to the Buccaneers, the world champs. You see what happened to the Arizona Cardinals. I know they were without Kyler Murray. But here's what I'm talking about here. You go into this game, and then the game starts, and all of a sudden, you've got 4 guys gone that you rely on. And that opens a door. And on the other side, they're like, boys, doors open. Let's go ahead and get in there. That was actually, besides the rain and the cold, it was an entertaining game to watch live. Being there, it was a whole lot more entertaining. But you also have a situation where you don't have your quarterback in there. You don't have Chase Claypool. So I'm watching this game and I thought, oh my gosh, is Ray McLeod going to break a record here for completions and lack of yards? I mean, that's a possibility. But all I have to say is that, you know what? This is a long season. There's an extra game. And as much as the Steelers are struggling in our mind, and yeah, they are. Here and there, they are. But the bottom line to the whole thing is this is a weird season. That one extra game is causing a whole lot of chaos. And you've got the AFC with the best you're going to get is an 8-2 team right now. A team with 2 losses. And it's not Seattle because they're not in the AFC. It's Tennessee. So with that being said, there's so much more to come in this season. And you could be down now. It's just like Frank Sinatra would say. You may be riding high in April, shot down in May. Or it could be the other way around.
All right, Dave, final thoughts.
My final thoughts are I still don't know what to think about this game with all these players that are up and down and you don't know what's going on. And this could really go. You could have the kickoff to the late games and still not know exactly how it's going to go down for the Chargers specifically. It could be that late in the game late to see what players are going to be on the COVID list and things like that. I'm probably going to change what I think is going to happen in this game about 6 times. And this was just this. All I did was make a standard. But you know what? I'm still going to be here Sunday night. I'm still going to be, staying up super late, doing the post game show. I'm still going to be acting like a zombie on Monday because I got 2 hours of sleep. I'm still going to be wearing my Cameron Phillips Hayward jersey. Yeah, you like that one? I'm still gonna be sporting that one. I'm wearing it on my couch and pulling for this team to win. Even if I don't believe that they are in the best situation because of everything going on, I still think that they can. The only question is, will they do it? And all I have to say is that it's so great to be here with you all on Thursday nights. Those that are in the live chat, those who are listening to it later, those that are just part of this BTSC family. I'm happy to say that unfortunately I'm about 20 years too late to play left tackle for the Steelers, but I did back in the day. No, I don't always tie my tennis shoes, and Jeff looks amazing in Crocs. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you can just go look up J Hartman _Pitt on Twitter and probably find that his most popular tweet of the last 2 days, and you can find out exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes. Don't hate on Crocs. All right, that's a good show, guys. Dave, why don't you send us out?
Hey.
San Diego
Superchargers.
You're gonna lose. All right, we'll see you next week.